Sell t-shirts and all that stuff.
Your t-shirts are made in the USA?
No, my blanks, no.
This big, beautiful economy that actually was rolling pretty good with jobs and inflation coming down feels more like the Game of Thrones Red Wedding. I mean, it is not going well. This is being executed.
I'm voting for the man that's going to take America back, baby. Donald J. Trump, man.
What's one of your biggest issues?
Probably going to be inflation, because I sell t-shirts and all that stuff.
Your t-shirts are made in the USA?
No, my blanks, no. See, that's the thing Trump's talking about. If we tax them, hit tariffs, the same item they're making over there will cost the same to make over here.
We pay the tariffs.
Well, the companies pay the tariffs, not us.
China doesn't pay the tariffs. We do when they come in.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Like if I'm buying 1,000 shirts from China and there's a tariff on it, I'm paying the tariff.
Well, no, whoever's getting it imported in is going to pay the tariffs.
Yeah. I'm the business owner. I'm paying the tariff. China doesn't pay it. I pay for it.
Well,
And like if I'm the business owner and I buy 1,000 shirts,
I see what you're saying.
China's not jolly. So I'm trying to
So who
explain.
pays the tariff?
They're paying the tariff.
Do you think that? Do you believe that?
Because I was trying to say, because I sell merch as well.
I sell you something for $10, right? You're going to sell it to him for $20.
Exactly.
But then I make you pay me $15 for it. Are you still going to sell it to him for $20?
Am I going to sell it to him for 20?
If I raise the price $5.
Oh, it's going to have to go up.
Right. So
Yeah, the consumer foots the bill.
All right, let's check this thing that Americans are not understanding. And this is about tariffs. It's so easy for you to understand how they work. If you just get your phone, go on ChatGPT or go on Google. When you go on Google, just find out who pays tariffs. Technically, the importing company, usually a domestic business, the importing company, that means the company that is buying those goods from a different country. So if you are importing goods, you are technically going to be paying for the tariffs. And if they increase tariff on the good that you're importing, what are you going to do? You are going to increase the price for the goods that you're going to be selling to the consumers. So technically, the importing company, usually a domestic business, pays a tariff to the government when goods arrive at the border. However, the real costs often get passed on in a few ways. One, to the consumers. The most common outcome, businesses raise prices to cover the tariff costs. So consumers end up paying more. I think that is the part where every person who doesn't understand tariffs should just be like, hold on. So am I going to be paying more for this lip cream? So if I was buying this for £2, I'm in the United Kingdom, and if the government put tariffs on countries that are producing this, that means they're going to increase the price per unit. And once that is done, the industry that is importing this is also going to increase the price. And that means the price is going to be passed on to the consumer. Why are people in America not understanding this? It's pretty much simple. Countries do not, exporting countries do not pay the tariff. The tariff is passed on to the consumers. They are now crying. They should have known this all along. Some are crying and some are still trying to whitewash this. And some journalists are just telling people to suck it up. Suck it up. Cancel your holiday. Forget about your holiday. Feel the pain. While the rich people are not feeling the pain at all. Why? I'm always surprised when I see poor people trying to compare or trying to put the president of the United States into the same shoes that they're wearing, because he's never been poor. He doesn't know anything about poverty. He's never struggled in his life. But for some reason, they still think that Donald Trump is just like them. Anyway, I don't know what is in people's mind, but he might still succeed. This might still work, but as we are talking as of now, it is not working. Signs are not showing that it's going to work, but you never know. Miracles do happen. He was elected a second time, and nobody expected that to happen. So miracles do happen. Anyway, check this compilation of videos and drop me a comment if you care. I'll see you on the next.
Consumer prices are not going down. We're 70% a consumer-driven country. So building a moat around the United States with protectionist and isolationist economic policies are not positive. And this isn't me saying it. This is JP Morgan, 60% chance of a recession.
But look, at this moment in time, with the market down 1,238 points right now on the Dow Industrials and the NASDAQ down 800 right now and market's not even open, futures indicating a very ugly opening, now would be the time for some clarity.
Good evening, President Trump. Thank you for taking our question.
Thank you.
My name is Barbara, mom of 3, a grandmother of 7, and 3 great-grands, a registered nurse, retired nurse. So I know the cost that goes into raising children and running a household.
Yeah.
People just can't survive now. How are you going to bring down the cost of food and groceries?
Good. Very good. Thank you. So we have to start always with energy, always. I don't want to be boring about it, but there's no bigger subject. It covers everything. If you make donuts, if you make cars, whatever you make, energy is a big deal, and we're going to get that. It's my ambition to get your energy bill within 12 months down 50%. If I can do that, we've done a hell of a job. 5-0, not 15, 50. Interest rates are going to follow, and actually they're going to follow for another reason. The economy is now not good, and interest rates, you'll see they'll do the rate cut and all the political stuff tomorrow, I think. And, will he do a half a point? Will he do a quarter of a point? But the reason is because the economy is not good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we're going to get interest rates down, and we got to work with our farmers. Our farmers are being decimated right now. They're being absolutely decimated. And, one of the reasons is we allow a lot of farm product into our country, and we're going to have to be a little bit like other countries. We're not going to allow so much We're going to let our farmers go to work. And I don't know if you remember, I love the farmers because, I had many meetings as president. I have this gorgeous room with this beautiful table that seats about 35 people. And I was with the farmers. Usually everybody wants something. They all want subsidy. But I was with the farmers, and I think you might have been there, actually, Sarah. I said, look, fellas, we're going to get you such a beautiful subsidy, meaning I'm going to do things. And one of the people raises in, sir, honestly, we don't want a subsidy. This is the first time this ever happened to me. Everyone they want money. They want to build windmills. We want money with these windmills. Anyway. But
we're continuing to move down. We now have the NASDAQ off 1,000 points, 5.6%. The Dow Industrials are down 1,558 points. By the way, if the Dow goes down 1,712 points, that will put the Dow in correction territory. The NASDAQ already in correction territory with a loss of 1,000 points. Check out the 10-year Treasury yield, please. It's been going down. It's just a tad above 4%, 4.01. Sharp decline in the yield there. The price of gold coming down a little bit from its previous highs, $8 lower at 31.57. Bitcoin, that's not exactly strong this morning. It's at 81.5.
Thoughts is this big, beautiful economy that actually was rolling pretty good with jobs and inflation coming down feels more like the Game of Thrones Red Wedding. I mean, it is not going well. This is being executed poorly. His economic advisors are being intellectually dishonest. Trade wars are bad. Tariffs are a tax. Consumer prices are not going down. We're 70% a consumer-driven country. So building a moat around the United States with protectionist and isolationist economic policies are not positive. And this isn't me saying it. This is JP Morgan, 60% chance of a recession. Heritage Foundation is for free trade and thinks tariffs are poor. I think Steve and I have always been for targeted tariffs. Go after the Eurozone on auto. Go after China on steel and intellectual property. But across the board is just coming back to haunt us. Yeah. And the markets are efficient. I disagree with Secretary of State Rubio. It's not just the businesses are getting reset. They're going to actually look at what happened at Whirlpool in Iowa. They cut over 500 jobs.
I hear
and
you.
By the way, today, the senator of Iowa and the senator of Washington are doing a bipartisan bill to possibly take away some of the powers.
To take control back, and Congress really has not been muscular on any of these issues, even though they had the power to be, and probably should have been a long time ago. Stephen Robert, thank you.
Yesterday, President Trump declared that it was, in fact, Liberation Day, his giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally. Trump's reciprocal tariffs impose hundreds of billions of dollars in new taxes on Americans, be the largest tax increase since the Revenue Act of 1968. One of the biggest tax increases on American consumers in the history of America. And it's going to cost American consumers. It will cost American producers who use inputs from other countries. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted immediately more than 1,000 points. The S&P 500 plummeted more than 3%. The NASDAQ plummeted almost 4.5%. There are real world implications for this sort of stuff. Trade wars are in fact not good and not easy to win, particularly if you don't actually have a plan. It is predicated on a bad idea of how international trade works. A fundamental misunderstanding of trade deficits. Trade deficits they're an accounting procedure. Trade deficits have pretty much nothing to do with the health of an economy. I can name you a period in American history where there was a fairly large surplus in America's balance of trade. The entire Great Depression.
Hell, even Steve Bannon, while on a separate issue, isn't confident that Trump will even last 4 years in office.
S&P 500 drops of 5% or more at this point in a presidency. There are only two of them, right? There's Donald Trump, a 10% drop since he took office. The only one that matches it or exceeds it was George W. Bush back in 2001, a drop of 18%. This is it. This is the whole kit and caboodle since the S&P 500 was created as an index back in 1957. When you're one of two and we're talking about drops in the stock market,
But the numbers that they did, and they had this ridiculous, I mean, that was the chart that they had with the mathematical equation. I mean, are you kidding me? How about just like...
It looks like an Einstein.
I know. How about the fact that it was just wrong? Yeah. And what bothered me, Aaron, was that they really did, over and over again, the president said, listen, it's going to be reciprocal. So you do it, we do it. And that was going to be so good. And I really believed in it. And I feel like a sucker tonight. Because I am not a free trader, and I do not believe in free trade. And I was just as tough, if not tougher, than his people. But they screwed it up, and they did it a totally ill-advised way. And I was very let down as someone who really, truly believes that free trade is awful for the American working person. This is what they came up with. Jeez, come on, have some gumption.
You know what? It was amazing. He said, almost tears in his eyes, they were getting decimated. We don't want a subsidy. We just want to play, a fair, level playing field. And I said, nobody's ever said that. And I have many industries and many groups of people from different things. They do all different things. It's probably the most dramatic I've ever seen. He didn't want anything. All he wanted was to be able to compete fairly. Interest rates, energy, and common sense.
After US President Trump finally released his Liberation Day tariffs, the market sell-off was so bad, JP Morgan kicked up their probability of a recession to 60%, with Thursday being the worst day for the stock market since when? Back in 2020, when Trump was also president.
Thursday was the worst day for stocks since March 2020, and very early this morning, prices were falling again.
JP Morgan upping its recession odds to 60% from 40% previously, citing obviously the tariffs, the effect on business sentiment, the effect on investment, and the effect on and on consumer price. They said, quote, these policies, if sustained, would likely push the U.S. and possibly global economy into recession this year.
Hosts and guests on Fox News, for one.
Well, BMW is going to rethink South Carolina because it's not going to import tariffed parts, engines from Germany, then to send those vehicles to export them. So again, it will mean if that plant stays open, it will mean fewer jobs potentially because they're going to make those vehicles somewhere else.
Well, where are they going to sell them now?
They sell them to China. They sell them to China. And they sell them to Europe.
So every American customer who could buy a BMW could be replaced overnight by a Chinese customer.
They sell them they export them to China.
No, but I'm saying you can't make
They import the parts, which will be tariffed, and then they will export them from the United States, where they're manufactured, back to Europe, where they will be tariffed again, and then to China and nations around the globe. Right? So these are the problems that a U.S. manufacturer faces because the parts are coming from somewhere else.
They can also just make the parts here. They can make the car.
No, they
here.
can't. Absolutely not. That's a fallacy.
It's impossible.
Was holding up fine. The economy was good. Everything was fine. Now there's this blinding light, like a giant searchlight staring at everyone with these tariffs. And these numbers aren't going to make any difference at all. What the market is worried about is what's going to happen in the future. Who's going to hire now in this uncertain environment? Yeah. I think people are very, very concerned.
And those 401k people who are depending, those retirees, all of that, just talking plain speak with them. Look, when this nation used to go to war, people in this country would support the war effort with their materials at home and making things for weaponry and all of that. We got to do 100% buy-in over this bumpy period. Just communicate.
And he's delivering. And you know what? I don't really care about my 401k today. You know what? Not that I can afford it. Not that it isn't important. Not that I'm not at a point in my life when I should be worried about my 401k, because I am. But this is what I believe. I believe in this man. And I believe that what we're seeing now with his bringing in $1 trillion in business and manufacturing and companies moving back to the United States.
Again, everybody's tightening the belt. Everybody's trying to figure out how to save money here and there. And that's just the natural game. And we teach this all the time on the Ramsey Show. Yeah. Listen, it's a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. You only get hurt if you jump off amid the ride. You know, be smart. If you got to pull back for your vacation this year because times are a little tighter, fine. Save, plan, and you just can't be the sky is falling looking at the headlines every day to decide how I'm going to live life.